Oh no!
The inside of Coates.
Porsche gets too heavily involved.
And that's Whitehead and Coates.
And welcome to round 2 of the VRRC League of Champions. Tonight we are at the virtual setting of Snetterton, where the drivers will take on the Snetterton 300 layout in the challenging 2017 Porsche Cup cars. Joining me, Dave Marshall, Daniel Handover. Good evening, gents. How are you?
How are we doing, Steve? You all right?
Good evening. Very well, very well. So, Dave, taking another step away from the steering wheel this week and joining us in the commentary box, going to bring us lots of technical info. Fantastic racing last week, wasn't it, Dave? Some great stuff from qualifying, race 1, race 2, with Jack McIntyre coming out on top.
Yeah, I mean, Jack really set the pace, didn't he, and set the bar really quite high. But what was quite surprising was as fast as he was, it wasn't guaranteed for race 2 with the reverse top 12. So coming to Snetterton now, a few more overtaking opportunities, maybe into the hairpins. So it'll be interesting to see how well people can get through the pack from a reverse grid. But yeah, looking forward to it, and overtaking should be very interesting around here.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, the overtaking is going to be interesting. It's a pretty fast track, is the Snetterton 300 layout, as we can see there. And interestingly, all the corners sort of taken from, the names are taken from some of the racing greats and some of the teams. But yeah, it's a fast flowing track. Dan, is it one of your favourite tracks?
It is, yeah, to be fair. I do love Snetterton. Since they've changed the layout, I prefer it. I just feel like it just adds something else. A few people I know that aren't actually keen on the layout. Me personally, I just feel it adds another completely different element of Snetterton. It's really, really good. It's still really fast, though. You've got the latter half of the track going through Nelson and that. It's such a quick track majority of this lap. I just find having that sort of variability with the infield section is really quite nice.
Yeah, the infield section certainly adds an awful lot to it. There's some very challenging sections in there, and it's all about maintaining the corner speed, like through the corners, like Hamilton. That's a tricky one to get right because it's very easy to run wide. And then obviously when you head out onto the Bentley straight, that's another overtaking opportunity through Brundle, getting the line right into Nelson, and then coming back out through the bomb hole. So it's a challenging track, and it's a track I think that's it's very easy to get carried away on and run slightly wide. And as we were talking about earlier, Dave, if you do run wide in a couple of the corners, there's some nasty bumps to catch you out.
Yeah, especially the coming through the bomb hole section. There's a huge bump on the exit of the grass. So anyone trying to go 2x2 into there is brave to start with, but anyone running wide on that grass, it'd be a true car ender, to be fair. So people want to miss that.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, and I think we've got 23 cars lining up tonight to take on the Snetterton 300. We'll be going into a short sort of 15-minute qualifying session very shortly, which will follow on with a 20-minute race. And then the second race is reverse top 12. So that will be an interesting one as ever. But again, just going back to last week, Jack McIntyre was absolutely ballistic in qualifying, wasn't he? And he won both races as well. So he came from that reverse top 12 to take race 2 as well. So that was an absolutely outstanding performance from him. Do we think, Dave, that we're going to see that again tonight?
I definitely think Jack will be the pace setter. I've seen him practice that. Jordan Brennan has been yet again pushing Jack for lap time. Don't forget, we've obviously got ballast going into this round. Ballast is done on round per round basis rather than race per race, just the way the program and the software works. And it basically means Jack's out front now on 36 kilogram, and increment in 3 kilogram going back for the remaining 12 spots with ballast. What we're seeing is Max Bird is really bringing his 8 game to Snetterton. Obviously helping that he's driven the track quite a lot with it being, on the calendar for the minis. And it's a track that he's always gone well on in real life, and sure enough, he's come to the track on the sim, and he's lapping within the top 5 straight away. So Max is surely going to be one to watch this round.
Yeah, hopefully so. I sort of saw the results from last week, and there was a few penalties, post-race penalties applied, and a few drivers suffered 30-second time penalties, which dropped them down at the order a little bit. But Dan, if I can just come to you, obviously the Porsche Cup car, the 2017 Porsche Cup, is a challenging car to drive. It's can be quite twitchy. It's got a lot of power under your right foot. Around a circuit like Snetterton, I mean, how do you go about tackling a 20-minute race here? Do you think it's just absolutely flat out from lights to flag, or is there a bit more tactics, do you think, that goes into something like this?
I think pretty much, yeah. You look at what Donington was like. It was, I know that Jack was controlling, especially race 1. I think, yeah, it's just flat out, at least for the first 2 laps, just to try and gain some ground, and also see if you're confident with these cars. As I said, confidence is key. If you are confident with the Porsches, we see someone that's spun there, number 23 car. I'm not entirely sure that looks to be Carroll there that spun. If you are confident, you can probably make up some positions on the first couple of laps. If you know you've got that, the main thing as well is to try and keep the car planted, and actually, you don't want the back end to step out on you. There's not a lot of there's a lot of grip on the rear. However, it gets to that point as soon as you go beyond the limitations of grip with these Cup cars, the car just spins and it goes. Like there's very little in terms of saving it, which again is what we have seen and we saw at Donington. So I feel there's going to be some tactics maybe played into it, potentially sort of halfway through the race and then continuing on. But I think for the start, it's just going to be flat out, get the positions that you can, get that track position, and then, if need be, defend or see how the race goes for the individual and see if you can attack some more with positions later in the race.
Yeah, because of course I think with the Porsche Cup as well, if you drive it very, very aggressively and you do sort of get the back end stepping out a little bit more than maybe you'd want to, obviously the tyres come into play, because you can overheat the tyres in the sim, and it does obviously lessen the traction that you've got. So the smoother drivers will probably benefit more, although this car isn't the easiest to drive smoothly. But Jack McIntyre certainly seems to be at home with it. Last week, obviously, as we said, pole position, 2 wins. This week on the timing sheets, before qualifying started, he was topping the sheets. And let's not forget, he's got ballast on. Dave, just remind me how much ballast Jack is carrying, and how does the ballast system work? As in, you explained it's a round by round, but what quantities of ballast for the viewers that are watching other drivers contending with?
So it's a round by round, and I did quite a lot of severe testing on the start of this League of Champions, and already decided ballast is going to be worked on car by car per championship, if you like. So it's not necessarily going to be the same amount of ballast going into the next championship for a different car. It'll have to be testing again, but we like to think 36 kilogram, which is maximum ballast, is worth between 0.4 and 0.5 of a second. So the aim there really is to sort of narrow the gap between the front runners and the midfield, but not to bury the front runners into the midfield, if you like. So it's 36 for top place, and in increments of 3 kilogram down 12 places. So 12 place will have 3 kilogram on board.
Yeah, absolutely. On the point scoring side of things, it's the top 15, isn't it, that score points within the race for finishing. And just on qualifying now, we can see Jordan Brennan at the moment is in that provisional pole position with a 1:48.4, albeit it's just under 3/10 faster than Jack McIntyre. And so obviously with 9 minutes still to go, I'm sure Jack will be getting into his rhythm, and I think we're going to see a bit of a fight between these two. Anybody else standing out for you, Dan, from last week that you may be expecting to come through to the front during qualifying or indeed during the races?
Well, I think the one to watch out for, we have spoken about him briefly, but Toby Trice, I think he had some mega pace, so definitely one to watch out for. I think Butler, again, we can see he is up there. He's about half a second off the pace at the moment. As we say that, we've got Burgess going over the 148.612, so only 3.5 tenths off of Jack McIntyre. I'm sort of surprised, really. This is actually a compared to from what pace that Jack had at Donington. I know we've still got just under 9 minutes left to qualify, but to be honest, I'm actually quite some practice as well. So, yeah, I think it's at the moment my bet would be hedging on McIntyre and Brennan to, at the moment, sort of pull away from the pack during race 1.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just touching on the qualifying times, we've got the top 6 more or less a second apart. If you go back to Donington last week, I think McIntyre was on pole position by almost a second. It was just under a second he took pole. So, I mean, obviously, yeah, with the ballast, as Dave was explaining, it's bringing the field a lot closer together. Although you rightly said, Dan, qualifying is it's only halfway through, so there is time for some ballistic laps if the lads have got them in them. But at the moment, it's very close. It's good to see. It's setting us up for a really good race. Just looking at some of the names on the leaderboard there from previous rounds have been commentated a few times for VRRC, and we've got Max Bird, Butler's a fast lad, Stapleford's quick, Isaac Smith, Max Edmondson, like say Toby Trice. There's any number of names on there, and it'd be a brave man to sort of pick out a podium from those three. I mean, quite rightly, Jack McIntyre with his 148.2, 2 tenths faster than Brennan at the moment. But those three have got to be your favourites for the podium, just on past performances. But like you said, there's so many guys: Butler, Stapleford, Edmondson. Just if I can throw it over to you, Dave. If you had to pick a wild card out of there, if we're going to go down the field a little bit, not so much a race winner, but just somebody who might surprise us and get on the podium. Is there anyone that's been standing out in practice other than, let's say, McIntyre and Brennan?
I think, you said not to pick a wild card winner, but I think Robbie Stapleford could definitely be a person to watch for outright pace, and he's got the aggression to get through the grid. I learned from doing the Mini E-Series that Snetterton, especially with the hairpins, it's really common for the first driver to defend going in, so go on the inside line. And then you've got the second driver who'll either dart to the left or want to keep him behind him. And what we tend to end up with in the hairpins is a train of about 4 or 5 cars all hugging the inside because they don't want to get overtaken. So there's an opportunity there for a brave person to send it all the way down the outside. And there's an opportunity to pass 3 or 4 cars there. So if there's someone that's going to do that, I'll put my money on either Rob Butler or Robbie for doing that. But then outside of that, Robin Walters has really impressed me. New to VRRC Championships, and he's come in and his car control is really good. He's going to be up there for a good consistent finish, I hope so.
Yeah, I'm just seeing Rob Butler as we were talking. He's just nipped into second place, just over a tenth behind McIntyre's time. So, they are really closing up now, the top 3 within 2 tenths of each other. Top 4 just over 3 tenths apart. So it's very, very close this evening. Just again, if you were challenging, if you were taking part in this qualifying session, would you sort of go out with a view to fueling and running the 15 minutes and just staying on track, or would you just short fuel, do a couple of laps, come in, put a bit more, and go out again? How would you challenge or take on the challenge of a 15-minute qualifying at Snetterton?
I think short fuel. I think any day of the week, the track's short enough. The guys are doing, sort of sub 2-minute lap times, 148s, 150s. I think, short fueling is probably the best way to go. That's how I'd normally play it. You will probably lose a 15-minute race. It may not be so bad. You may find drivers that are just sitting out there and going. It's more so the tyres. Like, what is the tyre drop off after 3 laps? Normally 3 laps is the sort of maximum that I would normally run in qualifying trim, purely just because you want to run as little fuel as possible. But not only that, is you're going to save on the tyres as well. So by running the full 15 minutes qualifying, you're going to run more fuel. You're also going to have excessive tyre because you're running more fuel. And obviously the tyres are going to drop off. So, I think any day of the week I'd always run maximum 4 laps probably, and then I'd be jumping in the pits. You want to maximise that track position. In a 20-minute race, track position is almost everything. You know, an endurance race, not so much. However, in sprint races like this, you've got to make sure that track position is your key fundamental thing and the #1 priority in qualifying.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about getting that clean air, isn't it? Like you say, track position and getting that clean lap in, so you can you've got every opportunity to hit all your markers, all your points, all your apexes, and really get that lap time down. And Jack McIntyre's not improved in the last couple of laps since he's done that 1:48.276.
Just as you say that, Steve, I'm just looking at the live timer board, and he is an absolute flyer at the moment. He's nearly half a second up, so. Yeah, watch the time screen. But also Rob Butler, I've just watched him unfortunately have a little spin coming out of Nelson, and he was also 3/10 up. So these boys are definitely not finished on lap time. But all I can say is Rob is not going to settle for that second, is he?
He's not now. I mean, we've seen Rob Butler in the other championships that he's entered, and he will fight to the last lap, whether that's in qualifying or during the race. And he's a very talented driver as well. But it's good to see, you know, if you sort of say McIntyre was half a second up, but Butler was also a few tenths up as well, as McIntyre has gone faster now with a 47.9, so he's dropped into the 47s, and he's literally just a shade under half a second quicker than Butler. But it's good to hear that the times are still keeping reasonably close, although McIntyre is stretching his legs a little bit now. But it is going to be an interesting race, because I don't think these cars are the easiest to get off the line. And obviously through Riches for the first time, it's going to be trying to pick the line, stay on the right line, not run wide and onto the green stuff, which is going to offer you no traction whatsoever, and then breaking into the hairpin. As you say, there's going to be a few cars battling for that apex, and if someone's brave enough to go down the outside without running wide onto the grass, it's going to be an interesting first lap, I think.
Yeah, these cars definitely aren't the easiest to get off the line, even with practicing 10 or so launches before the race. You know, that one time you let the clutch out, you know, it can all go wrong and you bog the car and you've lost 3 positions. So, you know, just because someone's put it on pole or second on the grid, don't expect that means they're going to be going into turn 1 in front, you know. Until we watch these cars launch, it's anyone's game.
Yeah, absolutely. We're coming into the last 1 minute 30 seconds now of qualifying, so pretty much the guys are going to be coming up to their last chance, last lap to get the times in. And at the moment, we've got McIntyre in first, Butler second, Brennan third, Max Bird fourth, Stapleford fifth. We've got Max Edmondson in 6th, we've got Walter 7th, Trice in 8th, Isaac Smith 9th, and Fairclough rounding out the top 10. And Fairclough in 10th is 1.4 seconds off. So, you know, the top 10, that's a relatively close top 10, and it is going to be an interesting start, and it's going to be about that start and bombing down for the first time into Riches and trying to hustle your way to the right line to get into the hairpin first, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah, I think... if I'm honest, I'm not going to put my money on it, is, you know, I've done a few races at Snetterton, not in real life, obviously done a few races on the sim. One thing you actually want to watch out for is Riches isn't necessarily the corner you want to focus on at the start. Montreal, turn 2, that's the corner you want to be focusing on. It's a really, really big braking zone, even on lap 1. So you have to make sure that you need to set the car up for, if you need to, obviously a defensive driving position for Montreal, because turn 2, if you leave that door open, there is someone that's going to go up the inside. It's a prime overtaking opportunity. So what we're probably going to see, and again I put money on this, is we're going to see a lot of defensive driving. You're going to see every single driver pretty much go to the right hand side of Montreal. They're not going to be taken, and again this is, you know, for people as well, they're not going to be taking what would be a normal racing line, because they don't want people to try and sort of dive at the inside last minute. So watch out for that. I'd like to see how that plays out, to be fair.
Yeah, I think Riches, I mean, I'm going to maybe just slightly disagree in the respect, and I'll happily be proven wrong, but Riches is going to come into it, because obviously Riches is part of getting yourself set up to get into Montreal. So if you go into Riches side by side, which is a distinct possibility, obviously coming off the start line, very easily get hung out on the outside and not be able to get back across to the inside. So I think yeah, you will be all the focus will be on Montreal, because that will be the overtaking opportunity. But that's going to come from being set up, going through Riches and into the braking zone. Would you agree?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I said, you know, not counting turn 1 out at all. I just feel that there's going to be. I think drivers potentially what they don't want to do is potentially actually get caught out by turn 2, so they've got to make sure that they've got that on their mind as well. as we've got Jack McIntyre. Look at that, 6/10 ahead. He has taken pole and he's absolutely smashed it. Only man in the 47s.
Yeah, absolutely. As the clock has hit 0, qualifying is now over, and as Dan rightly says there, Jack McIntyre is the man that is setting the pace, even with his ballast on this evening, with a 1:47.7, which is a mighty impressive time in the Porsche Cup car around the Snetterton 300 tonight. Rob Butler in second place. We've got Jordan Brennan in third, Max Bird fourth, Robbie Stapleford fifth, Max Edmondson in sixth. As you can see on your screens now, Robin Walters 7th, Toby Trice 8th, Andy Dorman 9th, Isaac Smith 10th, Will Fairclough 11th, Martin Johnson 12th, Charlie Oliver 13th, Tom O'Farrell 14th, Andy Cowell rounding out the top 15. We've got Scott Thorne in 16th, Paolo Tempera in 17th. We've got McConomy in 18th, Sutton in 19th, Lamy in 20th, Noonan 21st, and that concludes the grid tonight. So it's been a pretty tight qualifying, hasn't it, Dave? But just Jack McIntyre just showing the boys how to go on in the last few laps there.
Yeah, I think Jack will be fair happy with that lap. Anything in a 47 is a fair god lap. Yet again, he did it on his last lap, fastest lap. So I think he'll know the job isn't quite done yet. There's a lot of drivers that are very, very close. And I think he's going to be a bit worried with Rob being so close to him off the start.
Well, I think we have got Jack McIntyre in the interview booth, so I'm not sure, Dave, would you like to go down and just talk to Jack about that lap?
Yeah, no bother. How are we doing, Jack?
Hello.
You did it again. Fastest lap on the last lap.
Yeah, that was a bit of a crazy one. It was a bit scrappy until the last few corners, but I think because it was scrappy, I just decided to totally send it. So I was flat all the way through the bomb hole, which is probably the second time I've ever done that, and then just somehow just nailed the last corner. So that was, yeah, a bit of a lucky one, but I'll take it.
That's what I've actually noticed. It tends to be the fastest laps around here are just a bit on the ragged edge and a bit sort of just get it through the section as fast as you can, really, rather than being the smoother technique we might have seen at Donington, isn't it?
Yeah, I kind of built up to it throughout the session, so I started a little bit slow, but then got into the groove and just started going for it a bit. I think I was suffering from trying to be a little bit careful and trying not to crash, and that's not really the way to go fast and to win. So yeah, just got my head down, went for it, and
I've got to ask you the awkward question: how do you feel with Rob starting next year?
I don't know why that's awkward. We'll see how it goes.
You know Rob isn't going to settle.
No, yeah, he's a hard racer. We'll just have to see how it goes. They're really tricky to get off the line, these cars, so hopefully I can get a good start and then not have a problem with it. But if not, it's just going to be a little bit of a survival game, I think. Hopefully I can get ahead and try and pull away. That's kind of the plan. So yeah, we'll see.
I'm interested to see it myself, if I'm honest, because obviously we know Rob's massive motorsport background in the racing he's done in real life and on the sim, and you know he does know how to race. And I think if he's smart about it, he'll know. You know, if he doesn't have a good advantage off the line, or there isn't a gap off, you know, straight away in the first hairpin, you know, he probably will be the sort to tuck in and work with you to get away from the pack.
Yeah, I like to think so. I think Rob's definitely on the sim. He's calmed down. Is maybe a little bit unfair to say, but the racing that I've seen him do over the past kind of month or two has been really good. He's been really respectful on track. So I'm not too worried, to be fair. Maybe 6 months ago I might have been a little bit, but I think Rob's improved massively. So I don't think that's a bad thing to say.
Impressive time, Jack. Good luck for the race and keep your head down.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Great stuff. So that was Jack McIntyre, who's lining up on pole position on the front row, obviously, with Rob Butler in P2 alongside him. And just quickly to say hello to Michelle Dunn, who's Jordan Brennan's mum. She's cheering him on, come on, Bear. And we've got Emma Fairclough saying go Fairclough on the chat this evening. So welcome all who are watching on the chat. And just as we were sort of saying there, Dan, Jack alluded to the fact that these cars are hard to get off the line, so it's going to be a challenge and a little bit of nerves until the lights go out and they actually get the cars underway.
Yeah, I think so. yeah, it's going to be nerves are going to be building up probably for the entire first lap. Tires are going to be cold, brakes are going to be cold. You're not going to be. It's just there's going to be so much going on. I think the heart race people are going to be about 160 beats per minute for the entire first lap. If anything, I'm saying that they may even be like that for the entire race from what we saw at Donington.
Yeah, absolutely. We just see the cars taking positions on the grid at the moment, and we're waiting for the lights to come on and get the action underway of the first of 2 races here tonight at Snetterton 300. And it's going to be action-packed, I think, from start to finish. Like you said, Dan, it's going to be a case of getting that first lap out of the way, getting some heat into everything, get everything up to the working temperatures, settle into your positions, and get your head down. And maybe, as you were saying in the interview there, Dave, we might see Jack and Rob working together to try and get away from the pack.
Yeah, I think that would be the smart thing to do. Just as lights about to get away, but look at how close they are off the grid. Hardly a nose in front for Paul, so this is anyone's game.
Yeah, here we go. Lights going on now. We've got all the lights and just waiting for them to go out, and we go. And off they go, and Jack and Rob both get a reasonably good start there. Jack's looking to try and edge it out and maintain his lead through the first corner, but Rob's really taking it to him, and it's side by side. But it's looking like Jack's actually got into the front now and got a clear lead as they head into Melbourne for the first time. Looking fairly clean down the rest of the field as we're just looking there in your top left of the screen as everyone makes their way through the Melbourne. Fairly clean there, looks like not too much contact, couple of cars running a little bit wide, but yeah, good start from the guys, and head down and away they go now.
Yeah, really good. Oh, sorry, Jack.
Sorry, Dan. Sorry.
No, didn't mean to cut you off there. No, really good start there from everyone. As we see Jack, Jack is just pulling out the gap. He's already put out a little bit of a breathing space. You've got to watch out. Butler's on pressure, and Butler's being pressured already by Brennan there. As you can see, he's now the current focus point for the stream. So Brennan's looking at having a little bit of a look there. Try to again just positioning his car. He's really aggressive at the start. We saw that at Donington. You need to have that aggression to try and either upset the person in front. So Brennan, what he needs to do, it depends at the moment whether he's already accepted the fact that Jack is now going to walk away with it, because Jack's already pulled 1.3 seconds off of the pack. He's almost in a different race, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. He's pulling away. He's got his head down, and it's looking like Rob's going to have to start defending from Brennan. And we know Brennan's pretty quick in these cars, as he got 2 second places last time out. So he's going to be pushing for that second place to consolidate and get some more points on the championship standings. We're still seeing cars going 2 by 2 at the moment, and somebody just running wide there onto the grass, and that's always a worry because we can just see as he rejoins how rough that track is. The guys got away to a really good start there, and just putting the pressure on each other. But McIntyre is now already 1.7 seconds up the road, so that is a fantastic start from Jack, isn't it, Dave?
Yeah, it's what Jack wanted, isn't it? Rob hassled him quite a lot in the first corner, but Jack, I think you can tell the way Jack's car's set up. He's just got that car really quite aggressive. It likes to rotate quite well, so especially on the colder tyres and with heavy fuel, I think he just had the advantage off the line there in the first corner to have the car underneath him a bit more off the line. And then up into hairpin, I noticed Rob got a slight tap. I believe it was Max Bird, so maybe the weight of the car just caught Max about out there and just bumped Rob on a smidge bit. But other than that, a very, very clean start. And yeah, looking forward to seeing what happens.
Yeah, fantastic, and nice to see that the safety car's not required at this moment in time and still parked in the pit lane. But some of the cars, as you watch them go through Richie's, which is obviously a pretty quick right-hander there, you noticed Stapleford when we watched him go through, he was tucked in a lot tighter than a couple of the cars around him. These guys are free to set the cars up as they wish, so some of the guys will have maybe a stiffer, tighter setup than some of the other guys, which allows them just to hold that tighter line but may compromise them elsewhere on the track. But setup is a massively important thing. Even though it's only a 20-minute race, it's going to affect the car, it's going to affect the tyre wear, it's going to mean for slightly different lines in some of the corners, and a 20-minute race like this, it's all about attacking, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah, exactly. At no point do you really need to be, again, it depends on the circumstances. We see there we've got Trice just having a little bit of a look on Walters there, currently now riding on board with Isaac Smith, who's currently in P7. He's about 3/10 away from Edmondson, so not too sure if that gap is closing down, but this is a battle to watch out for. Isaac's going to be wanting to make some positions up, I'm sure. Yeah, in terms of, like I said, this 20-minute race, you've got to be really flat out as quick as you can. So we just got Jack McIntyre with a 48.8. He was half a second quicker than Rob Butler in second place in that lap. The gap's now just over 2 seconds. So again, Jack, as we said, it's just running away with it at this moment in time. There's going to be some more battles. I'm sure we've got a couple of gaps opening up at the same time. As we see Isaac very, very late on the brakes there.
That was deep. That was very deep, wasn't it? Yeah.
That was really, really deep. To be fair, he got the car stopped. Interesting line. What you were seeing there. He was, as he was braking, really getting the car stopped onto the apex, almost stopping pretty much on the apex, getting that car rotated, and then a nice straight line on the exit of the corner. It seems to work for him. He did pull a little bit of pace up on Edmondson there. So as we see again, very, very close. Edmondson running a little bit wide. This could potentially, Isaac, you can see he's weaving about all over the place, trying to make sure he upsets Edmondson, trying to put him in a mistake. And as I say that, he has done. I don't think there was any contact there. I don't think there was.
No, I don't think there was. I think it's exactly as you said. He was weaving in the mirrors. He was up there. He was as close as he could be. He just put Edmondson under just enough pressure. And as we said in the build-up to the race, it's very easy to run wide round here. And that's exactly what Edmondson did, allowing Smith to take the position. And a great move from Smith, really. A great show of just how to put the pressure on the car in front. And, just try and make the moves up the field as he goes. But Jack McIntyre now 2.2 ahead. Brennan 0.7 behind Butler. So I would say that gap between those two, although it's close, I wouldn't say Butler needs to be driving too defensively with almost a second gap. He should be driving his own lines. So this is probably a reflection on actual race pace between these guys at the moment, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah, exactly. As we've just come on the screen now, we've got a battle for P11, as we can see on the screen there. As we see someone that's gone off, I'm not entirely sure who that was. I'm sure someone's gone off.
Thorn,
yes, they have done.
Thorn, isn't it?
Indeed, yes, that was Thorn, unfortunately going wide, going into Murray. It almost looked like he lost it on Coram. It's a difficult corner to get right there. You're braking as you're turning still, with the way that these cars are. So you've got to be quite careful to not let the rear end rotate on you. So that's potentially what happened there. Unlucky for Thorn. Yeah, I think the pace at the moment, this is now true reflective pace. Butler's not going to be defending from Brennan, and Brennan isn't going to be defending from Bird. So this is now the pace that the drivers are running. Obviously, the top 12, the reverse grid, is going to add, it's going to be a completely different race almost. You can have Jack, that's now, well, to be fair, the top 3 guys are going to have to try and work their way through. In saying that, though, the gap's sort of open up. Obviously, let's disregard the gap from Jack and Rob for a second here. But if you look further down the field, there's sort of gaps anywhere between half a second and a second for the top 5. But most of the grid, though, they're sort of within that balance of, between maybe half a second and a second and a half. So it's interesting to see. You've got little patch going up now. So this, for example, at the moment, we've got the battle. I believe this is battle for 6th position. I'm not too sure if Edmondson's going to try and take the move back on Isaac Smith. He may very well do if he can get the run, although Isaac's putting out a little bit of a gap now. The gap is about 0.4 of a second. What you're wanting here is Rob, and what Rob is wanting is, as we see there, that was very, very, I think Edmondson just got the braking zone wrong ever so slightly going into Brundle. That's compromised his line. This is actually now a battle for 7th position here now. So Isaac has just gone, thank you very much. He's checked out and off he goes. But I think
it almost looks like Edmondson's struggling a little bit with his setup tonight, because he's making 1 or 2 mistakes where the car's looking very, very loose under him. And as you say there, under the braking, it was almost like he was just maybe trail braking that bit too heavy into the corner, and the car just started weaving under him. But having said that, we're on board with Max Bird at the moment, and Max Bird has just set the fastest lap of the race with a 48.587, albeit that's a couple of tenths faster than McIntyre's last lap, and more importantly 4 tenths faster than Butler and 3 tenths faster than Brennan. So he's the man on the move. Max Bird is the man on the move. We've just seen contact there. Was that Walters, I believe?
I believe so, yeah.
So Walters just losing out positions there as he got a bit of contact and ran wide off the track. But this is the battle now for sort of 7th place, as you were saying. This is the guys that are closing up. We've got Isaac Smith sort of made a bit of a break. Edmondson's trying to gather it all up, although the car's looking a bit loose on him. And Trice and Walters are all in there battling away.
Yeah, exactly. I'm interested to see how this battle develops. I think, Dave, point that you were following on as well. As I've just looked at the gaps, well, now Jack's pulled 3 seconds on Butler. This is, this is a race of his own. I know I keep saying it, but I mean, wow, you cannot disagree with the times that he's put in. That's so fast. So Dave, the point that you said about different setups, obviously Jack's aggressive setup here, it actually seems to be working for him. I thought that we may see it still. We've still got 11 minutes left of the race. I wonder how setup is really going to play a part. Is Jack's setup potentially too aggressive while he is quick now? Is he going to really drop off that pace later on? Is he going to be able to manage it? I think, to be fair, from what we saw at Donny, he's very good at managing the setup that he runs with the tyres. But, you know, obviously, as we see, so Max Bird's putting now in the fastest lap of the race with a 1:48.5, or one of the fastest laps of the race, I should say. Is it something that we may see different setups now playing a part differently within the last sort of like maybe 4 or 5 laps?
I think it's fair to say the setups and the tyres on these cars, they go hand in hand a bit, really. An aggressive setup will wear the tyres a little bit harder, but I don't think the race is really long enough for the tyres to go properly off. As we just see Robin there get a great move up the inside of Toby. Toby just lost it a little bit there into turn 1, and as I suspected, Robin is really, you know, holding his own in the top 10 here. Toby's struggling slightly more for pace than maybe he was at Donington, but he said himself after his real life experience he's struggling with this version of Snetterton a bit more than he was at Donington, so it'd be interesting to see this develop a bit more. But regarding, you touched on it before about the hairpins, you see a lot of people running very deep into the hairpin and then what we call V in the corner off, so it's where you almost stop the car to a stop, get the car turned and then point the car as straight as possible on exit, so that's really maximising traction on exit. Or as we see Robin span there, into the wall he goes. That's a big shame that for Robin.
Yeah, that was just pushing, as you say, that 10/10 and just over the limit ever so slightly there, and he's dropping down the field now. He's down to 14th and still going backwards, I believe, because that was quite a big impact. And also I was noticing while you were talking there, Edmondson was having a few more moments. Again, I definitely think Edmondson's got a few issues with his setup, whether it be tyre pressures, whether it's a general car setup, I'm not quite sure, but he's doing well to stay in that 7th place at the minute ahead of Trice, but he's really struggling. As we've seen him there, he's just gone wide over the curbs again, so he's really got his hands full this evening as Max Edmondson. But we've seen him in other championships, and he quite likes exciting racing, and he's a very, very good driver, so it's probably nothing he's not used to, is it, Dave?
Yeah, Max definitely drives on the wild side, doesn't he?
He does.
He likes to use the curb, and you know he's paid his race entry. He likes to use every inch of that bit of track. So, yeah, you know, Max is on probably one of the more budget setups out of all the drivers on the grid. So maybe he's lacking a little bit of steering feel through his rig. It's not to say, you know, you can't still do blistering lap times on cheaper gear. But it is an advantage for consistency, especially with the higher end gear. So Max is doing very, very well here to hang on to 7th place.
He is indeed, and he's not just hanging on to 7th place, he's hanging on to Isaac Smith in 6th place, really, because Isaac made that move on him a couple of laps ago. But Max Edmondson, despite his hairy moments through some of the corners, he's still hanging on in there, albeit sort of he's around 3/4 of a second back now, and he's lost a little bit of ground in the last few corners, but he's still there and he's still hanging on, and he's still ready to take advantage of any opportunity that may arise. The other thing I want to touch on is Max Bird. Obviously, he's got the pace, but he seems to his last lap wasn't the quickest. But I think it was more that Jordan Brennan's lap wasn't the fastest, because they were both sort of 49.2s. So it's sort of telling me that Max Bird is maybe just getting stuck a little bit behind Brennan now and needs to try and make a move. Race 2 is going to be very interesting, if I can talk about that already before this one's finished. But I think Jordan Brennan, Max Bird, obviously they'll be starting in front of Jack McIntyre if things finish as they are at the moment, and I think Max Bird might be a challenge for Jack McIntyre to get past if he manages to work his way through the grid.
Yeah, exactly. We've just seen, just on the screen now, we've got Isaac Smith. He ran wide going into Brundle and Nelson, so that complex has proved a little bit difficult for a few drivers now. You're going so fast into Brundle, trying to get the car stopped again. It's similar to Coram. You're turning as the car's stopping. You don't want to make sure the car rotates, but Isaac has dropped a position. We were talking about obviously, you know, Edmondson sort of holding his own at the moment. One mistake, and we have seen this, we saw this at Donington, one mistake and you can actually lose quite a few positions. Isaac has luckily only lost 2. So Toby Trice has now moved up into P7. Obviously, Isaac Smith is currently the focus on the screen now. He is still there, though. We've got Toby Trice is now going to try and make a move around the outside. He had a look going onto the exit of Montreal again, just placing his car, trying to upset the balance. Oh, no, as I say
Contact between them.
Big contact. Yeah, that was Toby Trice again, just going a little bit too deep. I think he wasn't expecting Edmondson to check up like that going through Palmer. I think, to be fair, that was a best case scenario. Luckily, both cars are still going. Toby Trice lost out a bit on that. I think just a little bit eager on the passing opportunity there. But Natsner's now put him and dropped him back to P9. So he's just been around that sort of P8, P9 position all the time. But it's good. It's given him a bit more confidence because he's got the pace now. I think he's getting a bit more confident with the car, a bit more comfortable with Snetterton. He's now got a cracking onboard shot. Now, I believe that is the onboard footage of, I think, is that Toby Trice? That is Isaac Smith, apologies. That's Isaac Smith. That is its onboard driver cam. Really, really cool camera angle. You can see again how these cars sort of behave. It's actually really, really good. You can see how much the car moves about under brake and how much the car moves about onto the acceleration as well. Taking a lot of curve there.
But yeah, I'm on the main screen there, Dan. We've just see how close the battle has got now for second place between Butler, Brennan, and Bird. And they're literally there isn't a car between them. They're on each other's bumper now, and really they'll be benefiting from the slipstreams. And they'll all be looking, Brennan and Bird will certainly be looking to try and make a move on each other as Butler's looking to defend. And really, they're sort of lapping in the 49s, which isn't the quickest lap times, but I'm guessing that's really Butler's probably coming down to the point where he's maybe starting to think about defending and he's compromising as we see him just run a little bit deep into that hairpin, missed the apex altogether, but there was nothing that Brennan could do about that time, and he just has to tuck back in behind Butler and just keep applying the pressure that he's doing. And it's almost like Bird in fourth place at the moment, he's just sort of that little bit further back, but he's got a watching brief, and as we were just saying there earlier, he's just waiting for any potential mistake or opportunity, as we've seen Brennan just running a little bit wide there, but not far wide, but just not quite making the apex there, Dave.
Yeah, so that's actually what I was touching on earlier. You see Brennan's approach is, he's got an aggressive car set up there, and he runs, as we see, he's trying to go around the outside. I don't think that's going to quite work around that corner. So he runs slightly deep into the hairpin so you can get the cutback and get the traction. That works on a car that's got an aggressive setup, but on a car that relies being more stable, a little bit softer, and it allows you to lean on the car a bit more, it's faster to take the smoother line around the hairpin. So that's why we're seeing this sort of different approach to the same corner, but both are about the same sort of lap time.
Yeah, and it's looking like Brennan's really getting keen to get past Butler now. He's sort of really pushing into the braking zones and getting right up behind Butler as close as he pretty much dare, as we've seen him sort of potentially carrying a little bit, what appears to be a little bit more corner speed as well than Butler, but also Max Bird behind. He's having a very sort of sensible drive, albeit he's pushing every bit as hard as the guys in front, but he's not pushing too hard, he's not making mistakes. He's just sort of more or less sitting there and watching as we're waiting for things to happen. But Brennan is definitely hounding Butler now, and he's just sort of making himself visible in Butler's mirrors and letting him know he's there, although Brennan's just maybe run a bit wide there, but he's managed to cut it back and stay on the right line as they now head into Montreal.
Yeah, it's impressive to watch Jordan, isn't it? He just moves that car around so much, little drifts on the brake and drifting into corners. It's an impressive drive to watch, and he definitely makes it interesting.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and it's great to see. You can watch a driver hot lap all day long, but then once somebody's right on their bumper and fill in your mirrors, it's a different kettle of fish. It's a different level of concentration. As again, we've just seen Butler just pushing hard into those braking zones. He's not wanting to give anyone the opportunity to steal the march on him into the braking zone. It's just maybe compromising him a little bit, and that's why we're seeing this ever so slightly slower lap times of the sort of 49.5 second laps compared to McIntyre's 48.2s at this moment in time. Wouldn't you agree, Dan?
Yeah, exactly. I think Butler at this point has just got to position his car correctly. It's going to slow them up. He obviously knows that Jack is, providing no mistakes. Again, he's trying to get out of that toe as well. Trying to get out and not let Brennan have the draft. I don't think it makes that much of a difference, if I'm honest, the draft going down the back straight. But again, you just see Brennan there just sort of dancing the car about, as you said, Jack, just backing the car in. The Porsche Cup cars, they tend to respond quite well because it can be sometimes difficult to get the front end in because you haven't got a lot of weight over the front axle. Actually using the car and steering the car with the rear, you may see him going and doing it through Murray's as well. You'll see him sort of back it in, and the car will just rotate ever so slightly, and it just gives that front end a little bit more directional change, and it brings the car around. It's almost like a pendulum effect using the rear of the car. But again, it's really, really close. Max Bird seems to have dropped off a little bit now from the top two, and as I say that, Jordan's dropped off a little bit from Butler, so he's probably, Jordan's only got 2 more laps, so if he can hang on to this, and we've just seen Brennan again going slightly wide. That seems to be the line he takes. He doesn't lose much time, if any, So that just seems to be the line that works for him. As you can see, they're all really diving really, really deep and getting it stops on that apex. Again, what Jack was saying, they want to V at that corner off at turn 2. And again, just the way that the car responds well and how the setup seems to be working for these guys at the moment. But it also, just looking at it, I think Max Bird is again just dropping off the pace a little bit. You know, he's about 9/10 away now. I think a sensible race from him, definitely. At this stage, potentially what you want to do is just let the guys battle ahead. If a battle is there to be had, then obviously let them crack on. He hasn't got much to worry about. Stapleford's about just over 2 seconds behind, so he hasn't really got to worry about that. But I think, yeah, he's just seeing if something happens between Butler and Brennan. As we can see again, Brennan's getting a little bit close to Butler now. So is it going to be a move on the last lap? I really don't know. It could very well be. It'd be interesting to see how this last lap pans out for everyone.
Yeah, it could be a move on the last lap, but I mean, having said that, I think obviously Brennan's been trying very hard for the last few laps. So I think he's certainly applying everything he knows and all the skill and talent that he's got. He's trying to force a move and he's trying to make Butler make a mistake. But we all know Rob Butler is a good driver himself. He's equal to Brennan, I believe, and he's defending very well and he is putting that car where he needs to. As we're just seeing him now, they've come out of the bomb hole now and they're just really holding together. As we've just seen Jack McIntyre now, he's going to go over the line. He's going to be before the clock hits 0. Because the race is 20 minutes plus 1 lap, so potentially we're going to have another lap at the end of this one. So on the final lap now, this is the final lap, this is the +1, so this is it for Brennan if he's going to try and get past Butler. But saying that, Max Bird is right back on the tail end of Brennan as well, so this is a 3-way scrap for second place now, and it's going to be very interesting now as they just head into Montreal again, into the braking zone, all very, very tight, and Bird taking a very wide line there, maybe getting a bit more of a drive out of the corner on the 2 guys in front of him, and just really, really tight up together through Parma, heading down the road towards Agostini, and no one running wide, no one making a mistake, everyone applying pressure and just sticking to the lines. It's absolutely fantastic driving from these guys at the moment. I mean, the pressure that Butler's soaking up at the moment, Dave, it's impressive.
It is very impressive what Rob's doing at the moment. He's using a very sneaky trick. He's slowed it down a little bit harder on the apex than maybe he necessarily needs to get around the corner, as it's just happened there. Slowed Jordan down even further, meaning it's put the pressure on Jordan.
Whoa! He's just compromised his exit there, which has given Bird the perfect opportunity, and he's gone alongside. In fact, he's got in front. He might. It's not just quite far enough in front to close the door, is he? I don't think. Yes, he is.
Yeah,
yes, he is. He's got the move done.
Max will always get that job done late on the brakes there. But as I was saying there, that's exactly what I was on about. Slowing Jordan down, and then Max is there ready to pounce. So fantastic drive by Rob there, but even more so, it's a harder job for Jordan to try and defend that and pass at the same time. And
Jack McIntyre now coming along to take the checkered flag. Fantastic drive from Jack. Pole position, checkered flag, first place in race 1. Fantastic drive for McIntyre, as we've seen. Butler's going to bring it home in second. Max Bird stole that last minute third place there from Jordan Brennan. Stapleford, a very, very worthy 5th place, and it's looking like Edmondson's going to bring that loose Porsche home in 6th place now in front of Isaac Smith. He's just going to hang on as they go across the line now.
I've just seen, looking down the terminals as well, we had, this is the battle I was actually just going to talk about as well, we had Laramie and Carroll. They were very, very close at one point. They were about 2/10 going down the Bentley Straight. The gap's opened up a little bit now, but again, one more corner left. We've got just going through Coram. Again, it looks to be about even there, because we see, though, Carroll getting a very, very good exit. This is going to be a very interesting one. Is he going to take Laramie on the inside? He's going to try and make that move. I don't think he's quite got the run, though, but it's going to be so, so close. He can't quite do it. Only about a car length in it, though. So Laramie takes P15, with Carroll taking P16. That was a cracking bit of driving at the end there.
Yeah, Carroll got an absolutely he just made Murray's look like it almost wasn't there, the amount of speed that he carried through that corner compared to Laramie. Fantastic drive, as we see Noonan now bringing it home in 20th place and last of the finishers, but fantastic drive, and looking forward to race 2. That was a cracker, wasn't it, Dave?
Yeah, that's what we're here for, isn't it? I mean, Jack, what a standout drive that was, and Rob Butler for holding on to that second position. Well deserved. Max Bird, that just shows his racecraft. Just sat there waiting for things to happen. Rob slowed the grid down got Jordan backed up a bit, and Max just took his opportunity perfectly.
Yeah, so we're just getting confirmation there. Sorry to interrupt, Dave. We've got confirmation there of Jack McIntyre first, Rob Butler second, Max Bird finishing the podium off in third place, Jordan Brennan fourth, Robbie Stapleford fifth, Max Edmondson sixth, Isaac Smith seventh, Toby Trice eighth, Tom O'Farrell ninth, and Martin Johnson rounding out the top 10. And we've got Charlie Oliver in 11th and Andy Dorman in 12th. So Andy Dorman will be on pole position for race 2. And that's going to be an interesting proposition, isn't it, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed this in the past few championships and few races that Andy Dorman's done. He showed really impressive pace, and he's getting ever increasingly good on a sim. So actually, him on pole, if him and Charlie can work together to get away, that's actually quite a dangerous combo, and it might be quite hard for the people starting on the reverse grid to actually catch back up to them.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few guys there, like you say, that it's the reverse grid. So obviously Jack McIntyre is now going to drop down to 12th place with Rob Butler alongside him in 11th. But, you know, I mean, Robbie Stapleford, he had a solid race there, didn't do anything wrong. He didn't get much airtime because he wasn't doing anything wrong, was he? He was just sort of more or less circulating on his own, putting the laps in when he needed to, and he was there to take the 5th place, I think it was, when the checkered flag dropped. So that people like him, when you're coming up against him on the reverse grid, are going to be very difficult to pass.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, Robbie, I'm just looking at the lap times there, and he was lapping faster than 3 people in front of him. So Robbie definitely had the outright pace, but as I say, you know, he might have just been playing it safe and get a good solid 5th result in, get the reverse grid, you know, and we'll see what happens. But I think, you know, looking at reverse grid, Charlie Oliver, Andy Dorman, good front row. Isaac Smith and Toby Trice in the mid-pack, they're going to be very, very hard to get past. You know, if them work together, it will be a sensible thing to do, but I think they're going to want to, you know, battle their own race.
No worries. Well, I believe we have the podium boys in the interview room now, so shall we drop down there, guys, and just have a chat with us?
Sounds good.
So, Jack, I'll come to you first. Pole position, race win. Fantastic drive. You sort of set off once the lights went green. You had a little bit of a battle in the first couple of the corners, but once you seemed to sort of get away, you really did start to open up the gap. I mean, obviously that seems like the race went to plan. Is that the case?
Cheers, Steve. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that definitely went to plan. Didn't get the best start, and Rob was alongside into turn 1, but he left a lot of room there, so I was able to hang it around the outside, and then had a good defensive line into turn 2, and then from there, yeah, just got my head down and tried to put in some good laps, and then I think the 3 guys behind me were battling a little bit, so that kind of hindered their progress. So once I saw that happening, I knew I just needed to just be consistent, stay on the track, and then yeah, went well.
Yeah, we saw sort of halfway through the race there was a little bit of a tussle for fastest laps. Jordan was putting in some quick laps as well as yourself, and it was sort of to-ing and fro-ing, but I believe you we ended up with the fastest lap of the race, so well done for that as well. But obviously, you know, it's you got that gap, you stretched your legs, you got out there, and you brought it home for the win, which is absolutely fantastic. But race 2 now is going to be a very different and difficult proposition, isn't it? You've got some pretty fast guys in front of you now.
Yeah, race 2. I mean, race 2 at Donington was real tough, and I think this is probably even going to be harder. The tracks are a lot harder to pass on, I think, compared to Donington. It's a lot more technical and a lot more bumpy. So yeah, it should be an exciting one. We'll see how it goes. Just hopefully can stay safe, get a good result.
Yeah, and let's not forget, I'm sure you don't need reminding of that ballast that you're carrying as well, which will affect you a little bit more. Obviously, Donington, there was no ballast involved, was there? So it was a level playing field, shall we say?
Yeah.
Yeah, so sorry, mate. Yeah, we're just up against the clock. So just all to say with yourself, Jack, is really well done, and good luck for race 2. And we'll go over to Rob Butler now. Rob, good evening, mate. Rob, can you hear me, mate? I think Rob's mic's on mute at the moment. Max, are you there? Never mind, the guys seem to have got audio issues at the moment, so we'll head back. Have we got Rob? Good evening, Rob.
Yeah, you can hear me there.
You're just messing with us, aren't you, mate? Just
Yeah, no, I wasn't on push to talk. I was on mute, and I had to on push to talk for the interview. Sorry, guys.
No problem, buddy. Well done on that race. We've just got very short time to interview you, mate. So it's really well done. And how was that for you?
It was fine, apart from Jack the Alien. McIntyre, he was just way too fast. I've put together quite a good lap in qualifying. I don't know where it came from, but happy to hang on for P2 and a good race with Jordan and Max behind.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I mean, you did give him a really good run down through Riches and into Montreal for the first lap, but he did get his head down and got away. But fantastic battling for the rest of the race, mate. And you gave us something to watch. So well done for that, mate. And good luck for race 2, mate.
I'll need it. Thank you, guys.
No problem.
There we go. Are we looking forward to race 2, gents?
Indeed we are, mate. Yeah, just the lights are going to come on very shortly now, and I'm really looking forward to this one. As we were saying to Jack there, with the ballast, the reverse grid, it's going to be very interesting as the lights do indeed now come on. And we have got Andy Dorman and Paul Charlie Oliver lined up alongside him, and they get a really good start there. That looked like a fantastic start from both guys as they're going side by side now down towards Riches for the first time. Looking back at the rest of the pack, they've all got the car off the line and they're all battling away as they go, but it's looking like, is that Oliver in the lead, I think, as they're heading down now. We've just seen some cars in the bottom right go off, not quite sure who that was, maybe Fairclough and Lamy, I think, and looking like a bit of a mess into turn 1. This could be a safety car incident, maybe, Dave.
Yeah, I think that was a case of about 4 cars don't go into one corner, wasn't it? I think all the people who had the reverse grid actually managed to get the advantage there by the front runners having a spin. I didn't quite see what happened there. Maybe someone missed a braking point or something like that. But on the whole, it was quite a clean start for the rest of the grid. We'll wait and see whether that's a safety car.
Yeah, absolutely. It's safety car. Looks like they're waving a little bit now and maybe slowed off a bit. I'm not quite sure, but definitely. Like you said, that's the dangers of the reverse grid, and it's very easy to throw everything away by sort of a bit of a silly move or a bit of hustle into turn 1. So yeah, we have got this confirmed that we have got the safety car deployed now, just to group everybody back up together, and we'll get things going under a rolling start once everything's cleared up and they've all regrouped. Fun and games at the first time through Montreal, Dan.
Yeah, no, I think Montreal was always going to throw up some interesting bits and pieces there, and interesting action. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for a few drivers. But I think, one thing. Well, a couple of the people that have already jumped the gun. You've got Brendan that's already up into P3. You've got Max Bird back in P4. You've got Jack's currently all the way up in P5 already. So he's almost, from where he started at the race, he's almost made up half of those positions already up to P5, and he's still got 18 minutes left, plus that one lap. So what drivers need to do now is they need to make sure that they've got heat in the tyres and keep the heat in the brakes. What you don't want to do is drop off those tyres. If you drop the tyres off and you drop them out of their operating window and other people don't, you are going to get absolutely lunched come the restart. So as you can see, everyone there, as I say that, everyone's now furiously warming their tyres, so you obviously can hear me in the commentary box.
They can all hear the good advice there from Dan. Let's all weave and get some heat back in those tyres.
Exactly, it's something you've really got to watch out for. With some cars and some tracks, it doesn't necessarily make a difference, or some cars, I should say. However, with the Porsche Cup cars, again, you've got to make sure that you've got heat into that front tyre. Because you haven't got that much weight over the front axle, again, it's harder to drum up that. It's hard to drum up the heat in the tyres and to actually get the heat in the carcass to stay there as well. From what I've seen, and Jack, I don't know if you can sort of elaborate on this point, but I think the tyre seam or the tyre carcass doesn't necessarily retain heat that well in the Porsche Cup car.
No, I mean the front right tyre doesn't retain its heat when you're pushing it on a flying lap to start with. So, this is not what you want to see as a driver with a safety car out. So, you see them weaving, but that weaving's only going to do so much. These front tyres are still going to be extremely cold. But I did say, lads, there's Robbie Stapleford in P1, sat behind the safety car.
Yes, I was just going to come to that because Robbie Stapleford, I've watched him over many weeks now, and he in a couple of different leagues as well. And he is a quick lad. He's a consistent lad. He knows how to keep his nose clean. And at this moment in time, the restart is going to be under his control. So he's going to have the opportunity potentially to maybe steal a little bit of a march and get his head down. And we know from race 1 that he was putting in some good lap times. So potentially he could build himself a little bit of a cushion between the guys behind if he can get his head down, if he can put those lap times in, maybe enough of a cushion to defend from the likes of McIntyre and Bird if they do get past Smith and Brennan. Do you think, Dan?
Yeah, I think potentially we're not really going to know until the restart. Ari, the restart could very well drum up. It could, in worst case scenario, it could drum another safety car. So we really don't know. I think, again, it's really going to hark back to what drivers can do, but I think we are going to find out in a second as we're just about to go for the restart, and we are underway at even start from everyone. If I'm honest, no one's got the jump on anyone else, which is ideally what you want. It's probably not what Stapleford wanted. However, he's pulled out a little bit of a gap already. So, actually, I say that the top two. So you've got Smith and Stapleford. They've already pulled out a little bit of a gap, maybe about 2/10 potentially. It's not that much, but it could be enough that the drivers don't take that much of a defending line, or they don't need to take that much of a defensive line. It's all bunched up though. Is Stapleford trying to do what Brendan did at the start? Is he trying to back the entire grid up? Is he trying to back it up so that Brendan can try and make that move on Smith? So this is going to be interesting to see as well. Is the car going to, is Stapleford going to slow the pack up, or is he just going to try and, again, similar to what Jack did, just head down, check out, and off he goes? It's going to be really difficult at the moment because everyone is a bit out of position. Obviously from race 1, as we've got Smith putting some absolute mega amount of pressure on Stapleford, and then Brennan's going to try and jump in on the action as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be head down and go and soak up that pressure for Stapleford. It's difficult to know, obviously, how much heat he managed to maintain in those tyres. It may be a fact that they're just tiptoeing around at the minute, and he's maybe been a little bit more cautious than Smith as he's trying to build heat back up into the tyres and brakes. But certainly he's having to soak a lot of pressure up now from Smith, who's not got Brennan very close behind, and then obviously more importantly there's Max Bird, Jack McIntyre and Rob Butler down to 6th place, all in very short succession at this moment in time, and they're all filing through Nelson there and into the bomb hole, very clean, very close together, and looking to apply that pressure and try and force that mistake. But indeed, Stapleford's going to. He's managed to stay in the lead. He needs to really start and get his head down and focus on getting those lap times, and maybe if he can, not worry too much about Smith behind him, because that will slow him down if he starts looking in the mirrors, won't it, Dave?
Yeah, I think that's definitely something I'll be doing if I was Robbie. Looking at the last race's results, he'll know he's got a few tenths in the bag over lap time over Isaac. He really needs to get his head down and pull that gap.
Yeah,
because otherwise
just
Jack is
just
going to
seeing
get past Max there.
Yeah, I'm just going to say we've got McIntyre trying to get past Bird into T1, T2, but Bird defending really well, but Jack is not hanging around, but it's looking like Isaac Smith's into 2nd place up behind Stapleford, so they've all swapped around, which will have given Stapleford a little bit of breathing space there to try and maybe get his head down, as Brennan and Smith are still arguing over that 2nd place and swapping places now, as we're seeing also McIntyre, I believe, swapping places with Bird as well.
That is a brave move that by Jack there, going into I believe that was Hamilton. Will Max get the cut back? Oh, that was very tight. But yeah, as we see, Isaac's just dropped off the back of Robbie here now, and Jordan's really trying to apply the pressure. So I reckon Robbie, he's done a good job here. He's got the break. Now Isaac's distracted by looking in his mirror. So now he really needs to get his head down and open that gap. Otherwise, who knows? It might be Jack in his mirror shortly.
Yeah, and let's not forget we've got Butler in 6th place, who's he's there as well. I think the top 6 are maybe fractionally starting to break away from Edmondson in 7th place, but Max Butler is definitely part of the leading pack. He's there, and he's maybe a couple of tenths further back than he'd want to be, but he's definitely hanging on to them and he's going for it. But Stapleford now is opened that gap up to almost a second. Whether it'll be a second when he crosses the line this time, I'm not quite sure, but he's certainly trying. He's got his head down, he's trying to put those laps in, and he's trying to build on that gap. The guys behind, Smith has just got himself a little bit of breathing space with Brennan, but McIntyre up into fourth place now, and he will be pushing, and he'll be pushing hard, and be focused on Brennan now and be looking to try and get past him as quick as he can, I would imagine, Dave.
Yeah, this is not a scenario you want to be in as Jordan. Jack's right up behind him now, and he knows Jack has pace, so he'll want to be getting past Isaac as fast as possible. So then he's got that safety buffer with Isaac in between, you know. Problem is, Isaac is a very, very good racer. You know, even if he doesn't quite have the outright pace, he knows how to drive, he knows how to position his car, and he's not going to make Jordan's job very easy at all.
No, absolutely not. I mean, Stapleford's doing what he needs to do out front. He was the fastest man on track. He's got the fastest lap, albeit at 49.5. But more importantly, it was faster than the guys behind him. So he's eking out a little bit of a gap all the time. It's sort of round about the 1.1 seconds now. So while the guys are battling behind, as we're on board with Bird, looking towards McIntyre, who is now well and truly glued to the back of Brennan and looking to try and make a pass. He's sort of hustling him down the Bentley straight, letting him know he's there. He's just showing his headlights in his left-hand mirror, but he's having to follow him through into Nelson and try and maybe put some pressure on through the bomb hole, force him to run wide. As we just see, Max Bird just lost the back end there, a little bit too much right foot maybe, Dave, or do you think one of the bumps just caught him out there?
No, unfortunately, I think that was just a little bit too early on the throttle there, trying to close the gap. That's a big shame. That, you know, Max has shown great pace here, and he would have really liked that good solid result there. But you know, that's going to take the pressure off Jack, even less so what Jordan wants to see. So this is going to be super interesting to see how Jordan copes with this now.
Yeah, and Jack McIntyre just put the fastest lap in of a 1:48.9. Robbie Stapleford's lap, just for a comparison, was a 1:49.2. So sort of 3/10 slower than Jack. So Jack's the man that's on the move, and as you say, sort of the pressure's gone from behind Jack now, so he really can focus forward onto Brennan and then Smith, and those three are all in very, very close contention now. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens. And Brennan just running really wide there as he's getting really on the power and trying to get the run onto Smith as they come down the straight towards Murray's, but towards Agostini, but just not working out for him that time. And this is all hotting up, isn't it, Dan?
I know it is, yeah. I think, if I'm honest, to be fair, Jack was probably focusing more so on Brennan than he was Max, as much as Max obviously was, half a second we've got there. Again, Brennan trying to take a very, very wide line. He's trying to get that cutback going through Oggies to try and actually maximise speed going through Williams. However, it hasn't worked out in his favour this time around. So you've now got McIntyre on his back bumper again. He's already pulled out of the slipstream. Again, he's letting him know that he's there. He's pulling the car out. He's nowhere in a position that he needs to overtake. However, he's getting Brennan to look in his mirrors to try and see. You see, he's pulled back in now. So again, the position was never going to be made there. He was way too far back, and he's just trying to put Brennan off. Doesn't seem to have worked though at the moment, so Brennan is keeping his cool. McIntyre is trying to find a way past. What you're probably going to find here, and what you will have as well with some drivers, is what they do. They don't necessarily try and make the move straight away. Jack knows that he's got some time in hand here. So he's got some time in hand. He's also seeing that Brennan and Smith are potentially going to fight as well. We've got Smith that's gone very, very wide. He had a bit of a massive sideways moment going through Murray's air. That's going to compromise him massively. He's already lost a position to Brennan, so he's been promoted up to P2. I think Jack now needs to capitalise on this and try and go through. Is he going to try and make the move into Montreal if he can get a good run? He's probably going to. As we've got Smith, is he going to take the defence line? He's not going to, surprisingly. He's still very, very close, though. It's all, at the moment, hotting up for battle for P2. They've both gone wide, so this has just promoted Jack up potentially to P3.
Jack just lost the back. He just lost the back end, though, did Jack there, didn't he? As he was holding a very, very tight line. Tried to get the throttle in, but it was just too tight a line. There was too much resistance at the front end, and it just caused the back end to step out a bit. But again, he's there. He's diving down the inside as they head into Agostini. He's lost it on the curbs and just thrown sideways again there. So Smith is back past McIntyre back up there, and the battle is really hotting up, and Jack McIntyre is not having it all his own way on this in race 2, is he, Dave?
No, that to me just shows it. Jordan's got past Isaac there. Jordan will be head down now. He needs to get on with this, otherwise Jack will be hot on his heels. But that there was maybe a slight bit of, Jack going, Jordan's got ahead. We need to get past Isaac, otherwise Jordan will be gone up the road. So, he threw a move there. Isaac positioned his car very defensively, and he still went for it. And they've actually both ended up losing more time to Jordan. So, it's one of them things. It was a risk maybe Jack had to take to try and get ahead of Isaac as soon as he could. But, some things just don't work out. So let's wait and see. Let's see if Jordan really hold his own and get that gap opened up.
Yeah, absolutely. And Robbie Stapleford at the moment up in the lead is just doing what we know Robbie Stapleford does, and that's just put the laps in. He's a pretty consistent driver, and especially when he's not under pressure, so he's just there. He's done a 48.8 on the last lap, and Jordan Brennan's just done the fastest lap of the race with a 48.7, so literally a 10th in it, so nothing really to shout home about. The gap is still at a second. Jack McIntyre is still behind Isaac Smith, still pushing very, very hard. And as Dan alluded to earlier, he's just he's close enough where he's putting the pressure on, maybe not close enough to pass. As we just dropped further down the field now to Oliver putting pressure on Johnson and O'Farrell, and this is a very, very tight battle for what is maybe 12th place between these three guys, Dan.
Yeah, very close indeed. It's good to see that we've got some battling going down the field. One thing I would have liked to have, unfortunately we're not able to, but I don't know, I think Smith, and this could be me, or obviously I just saw this, very sort of like last minute, obviously we were just seeing it live. It looked to me as if Smith just maybe sort of he probably went over to the inside. For me, it looked like he just went to the inside maybe a little bit too late. You can see Jack was already in a position where maybe he was braking, then Isaac seemed to move over and drift across, probably why there was contact there. Again, I could be wrong. But that's what it looked like to me anyway from Jack's onboard footage. But again, different camera angles promote different things, as we know it's got back on board. But no, really good to see that we've got some racing further down the field as well, which we're going to see some more of that in the last 5 minutes. Jack's dropped off the back a little bit of Isaac. I don't think he's nursing any damage, but what he could be doing is either letting Brennan catch up to Stapleford, which he has been doing as well. So Brennan, as I say that, he has actually got past. I'm not entirely sure what happened there, whether Isaac went wide going through the bomb hole there, but there's contact. That's very, very close to Jack. Going to save it. Well held by Jack. That was one of the saves.
That was a fantastic save. Absolutely awesome.
That was really good. Jack's probably not too happy about that. And again, it looked like Isaac just went a little bit too wide, and Jack furiously flashing his lights, putting this car every which way it needs to be to try and unsettle the back of that Porsche. But yeah, interesting move there again. So at the moment, Jack can't quite get past Isaac, and this is just promoting Stapleford and Brennan to go on the inside. Again, we've got Isaac going very, very defensive. He knows now that Jack is close enough to him that he's going to make that move whenever the opportunity comes up. So he's got to make sure that he takes that defensive line, but that's going to slow him down. And Butler, now currently in P5, he's going to be catching up to the back of these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. But Stapleford Brennan is turning out for a battle for the lead now, as Brennan has put the fastest lap of the race in and closed that gap right down to Stapleford now, and he's really sort of starting to apply the same sort of pressure that McIntyre's applying to Smith as well. So we've got a battle for first and second, and battle for third and fourth at the moment. Like you say, Rob Butler's closing in on this battle as well for third place. Isaac Smith, Jack McIntyre and Rob Butler seem to join them, as looks like Jack's trying to go around the outside, and I'm not sure there's contact again, and that's Isaac Smith spun. That's really unfortunate to see. That was a fantastic battle, and it looked like it could go a little bit further, but Isaac Smith just lost it after a little bit of contact there.
Yeah, he just went a bit. I think he just went a bit too wide, drifted off into the side. I think Jack was on the outside. At the end of the day, he was to be a car that was in the correct position. So yes, unfortunately, the bit of contact, and Isaac lost out on that. But Jack has now been promoted to third. So is he going to catch up? We've got 4 seconds is the gap now. Is Brennan going to try and make a move on Stapleford? We've only probably got about 2, maybe 3 laps left. We're now just on board with Brennan now. Again, you can see the car moving about under brake, and you can see the wheel moving about. He's working the car. He's really trying to make sure, utilising the setup that he's got, as we said before, trying to get the rear of the car rotated and trying to set the car up. And as I said, use it like a pendulum effect to swing the rear round, try and get that drive out of the corner. So this is probably a view that he doesn't want to see for much longer, because he's only got 2.5 minutes left, although Jack has already pulled, I believe, at least a couple of tenths on these guys up ahead. So if these guys battle too much, is it going to be something that this could very well be a three-way battle for P1, as we've got now Toby Trice and Max Bird having a bit of a battle there. Toby Trice again not having worlds apart from his Donington performance. So very unfortunate by him. So he's not performed again probably as he would have wanted, currently running in P9. But again, a good battle. I'm sure these guys are going to be enjoying the battles that they're having, regardless of the positions that they're in. Dave.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm just looking at this Jordan battle here. Jordan is definitely not going to want to settle with Robbie and just, work this in racecraft and just, keep pulling away from Jack. He's going to want this win. He'd be thinking of the championship standings. It's a very short championship, only four rounds. Jack's already managed to pull a little bit of a buffer, so yeah, Jordan's going to want this win to just try and close that points gap a little bit. But Robbie also hasn't had a win, so I have a feeling this is going to go up the line. They're not going to want to let each other past.
Yeah, I mean, I think Robbie Stapleford at the moment, he just got himself a little bit of an extra tenth or two there, but we just seen Brennan closing right up as they're breaking down into the corner there and now going through the bomb hole. But yeah, Stapleford, we know that he's consistent, as I've said already. He can put the laps in. He just needs to focus forward and just keep doing those laps, and he's doing a good enough job to win the race as it stands, albeit Brennan's putting pressure on, as we're just seeing. That looks like Walters that's just gone off and lost it, and he's losing positions hand over fist there, unfortunately. But yeah, Brennan he's in the slipstream of the Porsche. Not sure the slipstream's going to help him an awful lot, but as they're just heading now into Richie's, it's looking like Stapleford's got it covered at the moment. Will he go defensive into Montreal? He does he holds a slightly tighter line. He's aware he's there. That's going to help McIntyre close up, who is now 2.6 seconds behind, and you can see that gap visually is closing, and that will be a big incentive to Jack, won't it, Dave?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the time. I don't think it's going to be quite enough, even if these battle, for Jack to get past them. All I'm thinking is, Robbie is hugely defending here, and Jordan is going to have to be aggressive to get past. He's going to have to be creative in his moves, But crucially, when he goes for a move, is to commit to the move and get it done, because if he tries to go for a move and doesn't pull it off, there's more time lost for Jack to gain up. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the clock's on 0 now, so they'll cross the line to do one more lap after this one. So Robbie Stapleford, if he wants the win tonight, he's going to have to defend. As we've seen, there's that Max Bird again that's spun, not having the greatest of races, Max. So yes, sounds like just from the information we're getting, he crashed into the back of Isaac Smith. So that's two of the top runners just not having the greatest of races. But Stapleford still defending from Brennan as we speak, doing a fantastic job of soaking up the pressure. But he is going to have to circulate one more lap and soak up that pressure for one more lap. And all the time, Jack McIntyre, yeah, like you say, Dave, maybe agreeing with you now. He's maybe not quite close enough unless these guys make a mistake in front of him.
Yeah, I think it's only going to be if Jordan goes for 2 or 3 moves that aren't necessarily successful. I think that's a big enough gap. I know if I was Jordan, I'll be, weighing up my options and trying to think of where's the best place to overtake and commit to it before I've even got necessarily the run. So, you've got it in your head. Is he going to make a move here? No. So, like, for instance, in this corner here, he's going to be thinking, right, stay nice and close, get a good run out the left-hander, and the next hairpin could be a brilliant opportunity to just send it up the inside.
Yeah, Jack McIntyre in third position will just be thinking, I wish there was another 5 minutes to this race, because I think that would just about do him, wouldn't it, David? He'd probably close that gap up in the next 5. But Stapleford is doing a really, really good job, it has to be said. If he does bring this home for the winners, he just runs a bit wide there, he runs wide and lets Brennan almost get alongside, but I think he's got that position covered and he's got it back. That was an opportunity that was gifted towards Brennan, but it just wasn't quite enough of an opportunity, was it, Dan?
No, he managed to get the. So I think we had Brendan still managed to get the drive out of the corner, which is really, really good. Although it's still so close, as we see Brennan nearly going ever so slightly wide, nearly losing the back end. As I said, that he lost the back end a little bit going through Williams. That's unfortunately, I think, race over. That's the race win that's gone out the window for him at the moment. He's half a second back with only about 4 or 5 corners left. So you've got the latter half of the lap. All Stapleford needs to do is just sit there and not make any mistakes. Look at Jack, though. He's only a second away. Another lap or another 2 laps, and this would have been a very, very different race. But Stapleford, he's got 2 corners left now. He's got Coram and Murray's. Can he make sure, and can he keep that car centered in position? 1 more corner's left. He's got through Coram with no issues at all. I think he's going to get through Murray's again. Nice, straight and true. He put his car where it needed to be, and that is it. Fair play to Stapleford. He takes the win for round 2. What a cracking race by those guys.
Fantastic drive from Stapleford, deserves that win completely. Totally soaked up the pressure from Brennan. Great drive from Brennan. You could see on that last lap or two how much Brennan was really sort of wringing the neck of that Porsche to get every ounce of power and get on the throttle as early as he could. But he brought that home in second. McIntyre third. Butler brings it home in fourth. Edmondson fifth. So 2 solid finishes really for Edmondson tonight. Toby Trice in sixth. Paolo Tempera in seventh. Isaac Smith bringing it home in eighth with Max Bird in ninth. Those 2 guys involved in a bit of an incident towards the end of that race. Carroll in 10th. Walters in 11th. O'Farrell 12th. Oliver at the moment rounding out the top 13. Looking like McConomy is going to bring it home in 14th once he brings it around to the line. So yeah, great race that one, wasn't it, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, I'm new to this commentating thing. Do I get anything for calling Robbie in the at the start? I don't know whether I do. Yeah, what tea and biscuit? Yeah.
You get some Kit Kats, mate. They go great with a cup of tea. That'll do.
to anyone who's clueless, we were having a good conversation about the best biscuit out of choice and the Kit Kat you get out of top. But anyway, yeah, what a fantastic race that was. Robbie held his own. I mean, watching Jordan, I'm on the edge of my seat watching him. You know, he's driving it sideways, the back end stepping out into corners. You know, that was. I don't know what to say about Jordan. I mean, he was hanging on, but yeah, he could have taken the win there possibly, but he won't be kicking himself with a second. You know, it's a good point finish.
It was good to see that he didn't settle for second, did he? He was certainly trying his hardest. That Porsche was at all sorts of angles coming out of some of the corners, and you could argue that he compromised himself a little bit too much, but respect to the guy, he was giving 110% to try and take the win, and all that with Jack McIntyre. I mean, Jack had a great drive in that race, and he was closing, and in those last couple of laps, he was lapping over a second a lap faster than those 2 guys in front. So Jack never gave up right down to the flag. He was closing that gap. So it's a fantastic drive, wasn't it, Dan?
Yeah, an incredible drive. I said from the top 3, that was really, really good. We got a lot of comments coming through on YouTube as well saying that was a great race. So no, it was really, really good, and glad everyone enjoyed it. And the main thing, you know, obviously we enjoy it as commentators. It was amazing to commentate on, but the people that are watching as well on the broadcast, again, as long as they enjoy it, then that's another massive positive for us. But a cracking drive. That was really, really good. Yeah, I think Brennan, in some scenarios, he was probably overdriving the car ever so. I mean, you know, we're talking. This is really being nitpicky. I'm not saying that I could do any better, but yeah, I think maybe in some scenarios he may have overdriven the car ever so slightly, which compromised. It's very easy though to get into that situation, to get into that mindset that you want to catch up with the guy in front, and you will do absolutely anything to make sure that becomes a reality. So, you know, getting to that point where, yeah, a little bit too much oversteer, a little bit too much throttle application too soon, and it could have put him in a little bit. I don't think it would have made a difference though. You know, Stapleford just put his car where it needed to be, and yeah, I think kudos to Stapleford there. That was a cracking drive from him to take the win.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I've said many times, I've seen Stapleford racing quite a few races, quite a few leagues, quite a few championships, and he's very consistent. He seems to be a very level-headed driver, and he did deserve that win tonight because he soaked up the pressure. He wasn't maybe as quick as Brennan, he certainly wasn't as quick as McIntyre, who finished in third, but he just put his car where it needed to be, which is all he needed to do. He didn't seem to focus too much on what was going on in his mirror. He was looking ahead at all times, and it was only really the last couple of laps where we really started to see his lines change and him take a lot more of a defensive sort of attitude towards his driving, which is always the quickest way to go, isn't it? You know, you need to keep racing and racing on the fastest line possible, Dave.
Yeah, I think it's very easy when you're out leading and you get someone come up behind you to go too defensive and lose chunks of time. So I think, you know, Robbie's got a good karting background. He'll know that. You know, I think he did a very good job to drive as much his normal line as possible. You know, when you're driving your normal line and driving fast, it makes it very hard for the person to get past because you're not losing your apex speed. But, you know, fair play to Jordan, watching the car go sideways. He maybe didn't get the win, but that's what I like to see. You know, properly just grabbing the ball, grabbing the car and going for it.
Yeah, well, I think, being as you called the winner there, Dave, I think we potentially need to go down to the interview room, but I'll let you lead the interviews if you like, Dave.
Yeah, no bother.
Great stuff.
pleased to know I called you out for a win tonight. So that's me getting a catch up.
Yeah, clearly giving a good look.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was a bit of carnage off the line going into the hairpin. You managed to seem to just get through that, fairly unscathed. And then the safety car came out. So you must have been, thinking, this is job on. You had Jordan behind you and Jack not too far behind. So how did you cope with the pressure?
I just knew I had to get away and hope that Jack and Jordan couldn't catch me, which they didn't. They got stuck behind Isaac, so just had to hope they couldn't get by. And then Jordan started to catch me towards the end, and then I just had to fend to him.
Yeah, well, fair play. I mean, I was saying to the other lads in the commentary that, for all you were defending, you weren't overly defensive, which is the key for when, you had Jack catching up at a hell of a rate of knots. If you'd gone overly defensive there with Jordan, the amount of time you would have lost, Jack would have been back on on the closing stages of the race. So, very, very well done to not overly defend, but yet still come away with a win.
Yeah, I try not to defend too much because it's hard to overtake around this track anyway. So
yeah, I think that was a very mature drive, and I would expect to see you on the top step of the podium in the next few races.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I just want to say, Robbie, I'll apologise now if you watch the stream back. I sound like a bit of a fanboy because I was calling that like Dave. Dave did say at the start of the race, watch Robbie for this one, and I agreed with him fully. But once you got that second sort of gap on the guys, I said just watch Robbie because we know from past races he can be consistent. He doesn't necessarily have the fastest pace, but he knows how to defend. He knows how to be consistent. And that's just what you did. It absolutely fantastic drive, mate. Can't sort of praise you enough for that. It was like Dave said there, very, very mature drive, very, very controlled and very skillful, and fully deserved that win, mate.
Thanks, Steve.
No problem. So Jordan, that was a fantastic race from you, buddy. Again, myself and Dave and Dan were excited watching, and as the last couple of laps came into play, you were really, that car was very loose. You were pushing very hard, is that fair to say?
Yeah, it was very loose. I didn't want to go for a move on him because I was just thinking more about points. I just didn't want to throw it away, so I wanted to be there just in case he made the mistake, but I just sat behind him.
Yeah, I mean, we were sort of, again, Dave, with all his knowledge of racing with you guys, he was sort of pointing out, obviously that if you were racing too hard and you didn't, if you were going to make a move, you had to be very, very assertive with it and make sure the move worked. Otherwise, if you started getting too sort of tangled up with each other, Jack was going to be on top of you because Jack was really closing in those last sort of 2, 3, 4 laps. He was really sort of piling the pressure on relative to the lap times. Were you worried at any point in the closing stages about Jack closing that gap, or did you sort of always think in the back of your mind there was enough of a buffer there?
I was watching the time, and as soon as lap times, I was like, "Oh dear, this is pretty quick." This, but then towards the end, I just in it final lap, and I was like, "Right, he's a little bit too far away to catch." I think we've beaten me.
No, Jordan, it's Dave here. We've just had a great clip on the stream of you coming out of Hamilton in the next right-hander sideways with Jack behind you. You do realise this is not a rally car, don't you?
Maybe. Yeah, it was very loose.
I would
to drive.
I would suspect if your car's looking that loose going towards Thruxton, turn into a corner at 140 mile an hour with a car that loose, you've got your hands full, I think.
It'll be very fun.
It will, and it is a great spectacle to watch. No, fair play with the pressure you put on Robbie. I said personally that I would expect you to probably go for the win there, but it's interesting to hear that you're being a bit conservative and settling for second. I think that's a very smart drive. It's only second race in the championship, and it's played in your favour because you're sitting second in the championship now with a nice buffer to third.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
Oh well, champion. Right, well, good luck going towards Thruxton. Yeah, and hang on.
Right.
And finally, third place Jack, yet again on the podium.
Yeah, that was good. That was a good race. I had a brilliant lap with Max Bird. I think we were side by side for nearly all of the field. And then some tough racing with Isaac, and then once I got clear, I knew it was just time to put the hammer down, so to speak, and go for it. I made a couple of little mistakes, so probably I think if I'd driven perfectly, I might have been right on the back of the two guys ahead. But equally, I think they both said, they both did the real smart thing of just not fighting too hard, and I think that's ultimately what got them first and second.
Yeah.
I was kind of shouting at my screen as I was driving around, telling Jordan to chuck one up the inside, but no, he did the clever thing, and it was too quick for me.
Yeah, well, we did actually see the move you did on Isaac, and it was exactly what I was saying. You know, Jordan got past him, and I know your mindset would have been right. If Jordan gets clear here and I get stuck behind Isaac, you know, you're starting to watch that possible second or first place go away. So I knew you had to try and get a move straight on. You know, move was maybe a little bit, you know, hard and aggressive, but I don't think it was anything stupid. You know, Isaac could see your intention, and you didn't gain really an advantage from doing it. It's just a shame it didn't come off, because it actually lost you more time.
Yeah, I think that one I noticed Isaac was sticking to the right, so I was just gonna. I knew he defends hard, so I needed to try and surprise him with it. But then I think the line that he takes into that corner, like you said, you mentioned the other day, the kind of mini line where you move across to the middle of the track. I didn't really anticipate that he was going to do that, so it was at the point where I hit the brakes and then saw him start moving over towards the apex. I kind of knew that it was probably a mistake, and I think if it had have worked and I'd have got ahead of him, I probably would have let him pass, because I think otherwise it would have been a bit marginal. I didn't really want to get past that way, so I'm kind of glad it swapped around again. But
that's good.
But yeah, it was a good race.
That's good racemanship, that, Jack. Fair play to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Just one final thing from me, Jack. Well done. I mean, 4 races, 3 wins, 1/3. When does the masterclass stop? Fantastic performance, and really setting yourself apart to lead the championship, and sort of looking solid going into round 3. Did you anticipate 3 wins and a third?
Not really. Well, is it 3 wins? I thought it was second last race, unless there was a post-race change last week.
Yeah,
sorry, rather.
There was due to penalties.
Oh, there was, right? Okay.
Okay.
Not 3 wins on the track, which is kind of what I want.
Two first, 1 second, 1/3. Then you'll still
Yeah.
take that, won't you?
Well, yeah, absolutely. That's mega. I think I've just kind of hit the sweet spot with this car. It really suits the way I drive, and the way that I've got it set up is quite loose and quite aggressive. But it just really suits the way I like to drive. So it's a bit of a sweet spot. I think. I'm not sure, with the other 3 championships that make up the whole League of Champions, I'm not sure it'll particularly go this well for all of those. So I'll just enjoy it while I can and see what happens.
Yeah, well, fantastically, and well done. I'm not sure if obviously Dan sat there quiet. Have you got anything to add to the boys, Dan?
Well, no, again, yeah, I was just going to say, really well done to everyone. Yeah, it's been some cracking racing again. Like, we had at Donington, it was just racing from non-stop, from start to finish. It was really, really good fun. And yeah, just want to, congratulate you 3 on race 2. Really, really good stuff indeed, and a joy to watch as always. And that's pretty much it from me. To be fair, I think you guys have answered all the questions that I was going to ask. So, to be honest,
great stuff. And well, that is it then. Basically, thank you very much, guys. Well done on the podiums. Well done on the racing tonight. We've had some fantastic racing in both races, and looking forward very much to next week and more of the same. So, thank you very much, guys.
Right, boys, that was some awesome racing this week. Some very clean racing. We saw a couple of incidents. We saw the safety car in in race 2, which always adds a little bit of a spice to the event. Just very quickly before we wrap up, Dan, thoughts on that one?
Well, I mean, to be fair, I think the buzzword that we're going to be using a lot for the remainder of these for the last 2 rounds is exciting. We've seen what can happen. The grid reversal and the 12-car grid reversal, that really spices things up. And that adds just that different element into it. And yeah, I think if these first 2 rounds have been so action-packed, what are the next 2 rounds going to be like? Is it going to be even more? I can't see how it can be more action-packed than what we've had already, if I'm honest.
Never say never.
Oh, very true.
Dave, over to you, buddy. Just very quickly for your final thoughts, mate.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that we didn't see at Snetterton that I was maybe expecting a little bit more of was the slipstream effect. I thought the slipstream down the back straight might have taken more effect and moves it to the next corner, but we're at Thruxton next. Anyone who doesn't know Thruxton is probably known for one of the highest average speed tracks on the UK calendar, and you know, you enter some of them corners at 140 mile an hour down back straight. We might see slipstream coming into effect there. So are we going to see some smart play towards the end of the race where a driver maybe won't necessarily go for a move prior to the straight in order to get the run into the last set of corners? So yeah, next week is going to be one to watch.
Thank you very much. Well, cheers, guys. It's been an absolute blast commentating with you again. So thank you, Dave Marshall. Thank you, Daniel Handover. I've been Steve Proudley. Really enjoyed the racing this evening. Hope you have as well. So please, please, please join us next week if you can for Thruxton, where I'm sure we're going to have a lot more exciting racing for you. Thank you and good night.
Between the two of them,
The inside of coats.
Parker gets too heavily involved.
And that's Whitehead and Coates.
Woo!